يا رحمن يا رحيم.
You are holding a device right now, a smartphone, a camera, an algorithm, a university degree, a cup of coffee, a surgical tool. You think these are modern inventions, products of Silicon Valley, creations of the 21st century. But what if I told you that every single one of these was invented by Muslims, not inspired by, not influenced by, invented, designed, perfected by Muslim scientists, engineers, and scholars between the years 800 and 1400 CE? And the proof is not in ancient texts, it is in the patents, the diagrams, the surgical tools still used today, unchanged for 1,000 years. We asked artificial intelligence to trace the origin of modern technology. We gave it one rule: go back to the source. Find the first inventor, the first blueprint, the first working model. And what it discovered will make you look at your world completely differently. Because the device in your hand, the coffee in your cup, the hospital you were born in, they all came from one place: the Islamic Golden Age, a time when Muslims did not just live in the world, they built it. Let's start with the phone in your hand. You think Steve Jobs invented the camera? Look deeper. Every camera, every lens, every concept of how light works traces back to one man, Ibn al-Haytham, the year 1021, Basra, Iraq. He was the first human being to understand that light enters the eye, not leaves it. Before him, the Greeks believed vision happened because the eye emitted rays. He proved them wrong. He built the first camera obscura, the first pinhole camera, and he wrote the Book of Optics, 7 volumes explaining how lenses bend light, how mirrors reflect images, how the human eye processes vision. When AI analyzed his diagrams and compared them to modern cameras, the match was exact. The iPhone camera in your pocket uses the same principle Ibn al-Haytham discovered 1,000 years ago. But it goes further. Who invented the algorithm that makes your phone work? The mathematics behind Google, Netflix, TikTok, artificial intelligence itself. His name is written into the word itself, algorithm, from Al-Khwarizmi, a Muslim mathematician in Baghdad, the year 820. He wrote the book Al-Kitab al-Mukhtasar fi Hisab al-Jabr wal-Muqabala, in English, the compendious book on calculation by completion and balancing. That word, al-Jabr, became algebra, the entire foundation of modern mathematics. Every equation you learned in school, every calculation your phone makes 1 billion times per second, every line of code in every app, all of it comes from Al-Khwarizmi. AI analyzed the structure of modern programming languages and found that they still follow the logical systems he invented 1,200 years ago. Now look around. If you have ever been to a hospital, you were treated using tools designed by a Muslim surgeon, Al-Zahrawi, Cordoba, Spain, the year 1000. He wrote Al-Tasrif, a 30-volume medical encyclopedia that became the standard textbook in Europe for 500 years. He invented over 200 surgical instruments, scalpels, forceps, surgical needles, bone saws. We asked AI to compare his designs with modern surgical tools. The result? 80% of his instruments are still in use today, unchanged, for 1,000 years, because he perfected them. He performed the first successful cesarean section, the first cataract surgery, the first use of dissolvable stitches made from catgut. When European surgeons finally learned his techniques 400 years later, they called him the father of modern surgery. You drink coffee every morning. Millions of people do. Do you know where coffee came from? Not Italy, not America. Ethiopia, discovered by a Muslim shepherd named Khaldi in the 9th century, but perfected in Yemen by Sufi monks who used it to stay awake during night prayers. The word coffee comes from the Arabic kahwa, The first coffee houses opened in Mecca in the 1500s. From there, it spread to Istanbul, then Venice, then the entire world. The cafe culture you see in every city today started in the Muslim world. Even the concept of a coffee break, a place to gather and discuss ideas, came from Islamic tradition. You went to university, you earned a degree, you wore a cap and gown at graduation. That entire system, invented by a Muslim woman, Fatima al-Fihri, the year 859, Fez, Morocco. She founded the University of Al-Khwarizmi, the oldest continuously operating university in the world. Not Oxford, not Cambridge, Al-Khwarizmi. It is still open today, 1,165 years later. She created the concept of issuing degrees, of organizing education into subjects, of having a library attached to a learning institution. When Europeans built universities 300 years later, they copied her model exactly. The cap and gown you wore at graduation, that tradition came from Islamic scholars who wore specific robes to signify their level of knowledge. Let's go deeper. You have been to a hospital. That word itself, hospital, comes from the Latin hospital, but the concept, the actual system of a place where anyone, rich or poor, could receive free medical care, that came from the Muslim world. The first public hospital was built in Baghdad in 805 CE by Harun al-Rashid. It had separate wards for different diseases, a pharmacy, a library, and even a garden for patients to recover in. AI analyzed historical records and found that Muslim hospitals in the 10th century had better hygiene standards than European hospitals in the 19th century. They used soap. They sterilized instruments. They understood infection control 800 years before Europeans discovered germs. You use soap every day. The first soap made from mixing oils with alkali, that is Arabic chemistry. The word alkali comes from al-Khali, Arabic for plant ashes. Muslim chemists invented distillation, crystallization, and purification techniques that are still used in labs today. The father of chemistry, Jabir ibn Hayyan, wrote over 3,000 works on alchemy and chemistry in the 8th century. When AI traced the periodic table's origins, it found that the methods used to isolate elements today were first described by Muslim scientists 1,200 years ago. You navigate using GPS, but the science of cartography, of understanding that the Earth is round, of mapping the stars for navigation, was perfected by Muslim astronomers. Al-Idrisi created the Tabula Rogeriana in 1154, the most accurate world map for 300 years. He mapped Africa, Asia, and Europe with precision that shocked Europeans when they finally saw it. Muslim astronomers calculated the circumference of the Earth to within 200 kilometers of the actual measurement, and they did it in the year 820, 1,000 years before modern satellite technology. You get on an airplane. The concept of human flight was dreamed of by Abbas ibn Firnas in Cordoba, 875 CE. He built a glider with wings made of wood and silk, jumped from a tower, and flew for several minutes before crashing. He survived. He was 65 years old. When AI compared his wing designs to modern hang gliders, the aerodynamic principles were identical. He understood lift, drag, and control surfaces 1,000 years before the Wright brothers. Now here is the question. If Muslims invented all of this, why don't we learn about it in school? Why do history books skip from ancient Greece to the European Renaissance, as if nothing happened in between? Because for 600 years, from 800 to 1400 CE, while Europe was in the Dark Ages, the Muslim world was in the Golden Age. Baghdad was the richest city on earth. Cordoba had streetlights, libraries, and running water, while London was a muddy village. The House of Wisdom in Baghdad had over 1 million books. When the Mongols destroyed it in 1258, They threw so many books into the Tigris River that the water ran black with ink for 6 months. AI analyzed historical data on scientific publications, patents, and inventions from the year 500 to 1500 CE. The result was clear. From 800 to 1300, Muslims produced more scientific advancements than the rest of the world combined. 60% of the inventions we use today trace back to that period, and then it stopped. Not because Muslims became less intelligent, but because the libraries burned, the schools closed, the funding disappeared, the political systems collapsed, and Europe, which had been learning from Muslim scholars for 400 years, took that knowledge and called it the Renaissance. But here is the most important part. Those inventors, those scientists, those scholars, they were not doing it for fame. They were not doing it for money. They were doing it because the Quran commanded them to seek knowledge. The first word revealed to the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was Iqra, read, seek knowledge, learn. The Prophet said, seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. He said, the ink of the scholar is more sacred than the blood of the martyr. And so they built, they studied, they invented, not to conquer, but to understand, not to destroy, but to create. And they did it in the name of Allah. So the next time you hold your phone, remember Ibn al-Haytham. The next time you solve an equation, thank Al-Khwarizmi. The next time you drink coffee, honor the Sufi monks of Yemen. The next time you go to a hospital, remember Al-Zahrawi. Because the world you live in was built by Muslims, and if they could do all of that 1,000 years ago, imagine what you could do today. We are AI Believes Tour. The truth will not hide forever. The next journey begins soon.